Hello!
Hi!
So, we are here again to tell you the story of how we managed to get this apartment here in Paris.
Well, it was not easy, I have to tell you. Not at all.
But I think that finding an apartment in a foreign country seems pretty scary.
It is.
And that is why I thought it might be useful for you if we shared what we learned, how you can do this, how you can avoid being ripped off and finding a generally nice place. This whole process took us longer than it should have. There are some key points in our experience that I think we should mention. And the first thing is that we found this apartment online and we were looking for apartments through an agency, through an online real estate agency.
You know, the strangest thing about looking for an apartment online is that you are really not sure until the very last moment that you have rented something out.
Because you assume that these real estate agencies online are really keeping track of everything, so all the apartments that are online are actually for rent, and really all the information that is there is the correct information. That is what we assumed.
Yeah, unfortunately. You would think that an agency would like to rent out as many apartments as fast as possible. They are going to make our job as easy as possible. They do not.
So the first thing that we did that you should not do is assume that all the apartments are available and therefore not put in an information request up until you have decided that that is the apartment that you really want. You should not assume that all the apartments are available. It might be that they don't even rent it out to students. So you should pick the first 5 that you think is okay for you and put in an information request as soon as you can.
Yeah, basically as soon as you find them. What we did, we tried to list the nice ones that we wanted to rent out, and as we found 5 or 4 very nice apartments that we really liked, then we sent out an information request about these apartments. That was a huge mistake on our part.
Yeah.
If you find something that you remotely like, just contact them and you can work from there.
If you have put in an information request, at least you are in contact with them. When we put in an information request at first, then it took the agency about 2 or 3 days to email us back. That was the first step. We were contacted with a real estate agent, which turned out that she was not very good at her job.
Yeah, she was unorganized at best. She requested the same documents about 5 times in a row, without realizing that we have already sent them. She did not inform us about any of the necessary documentation that we needed to prepare.
And it turned out at the end that she didn't even inform us well about how much income we should prove. So therefore, I think we were probably not contacted because of that from a lot of apartments.
So even though I really love this apartment, I enjoy it even more than our previous apartment, but still.
The reason why we definitely know that she was not doing her job well was because at the end we contacted another real estate agent at this exact same firm. First thing that she did was send us a link to a database where we could upload all the information, all the documents, all our requests for the apartments. That was crazy that the previous one could not do that. So this was our experience, and now we are gonna explain what the thought process behind our decision was. So I think the first thing that you will have to decide when you are a student and when you want to live abroad is whether you want to live in an apartment or in a dorm. Well, we definitely did not consider a dorm. We even heard that dorms are even more expensive than regular apartments. For the 2 of us together, it just was not a good idea to do that. But maybe in other cities you can consider that. I don't know how it is in other cities. It might be that dorms are cheaper than apartments.
Yeah, if you're traveling alone, they are cheaper.
Or you can even find single rooms, but we were looking at single room prices just because we saw them on the website, and the ridiculous thing was that for the price of a single room you could almost rent a normal apartment. So if 2 people want to move abroad, I think it is best to find an apartment in Paris. This apartment that we have managed to rent for 4 months is in a pretty good condition. And it is also a plus that we have 2 separate rooms, so we can work separately if we like to do that. The bedroom and even the living room is pretty much the same size. So even though this apartment is smaller than our previous one, the space is used in a more reasonable way and therefore it feels much more airy and spacious.
The previous apartment or bedroom was basically just a bed.
So once you have decided if you want to live in a dorm or live in an apartment, then the next step is to decide when to start looking for a place.
We procrastinated like for a month.
Seems so daunting that we didn't really want to start. But I think that we started at a pretty great time, but even at that time a lot of the better apartments were already taken. So what I suggest is that you should start looking as soon as you can. We will link below the website that we were looking at apartments on. That maybe can help you to start the process, because we had to find the website as well. So so I think that was the biggest obstacle that we had to overcome.
The biggest obstacle for me was to find the French translation button on the websites.
That is what I recommend, is that you should start right after you realize that you are accepted to study abroad. There is always the possibility of apartments appearing from nowhere on the website, but these apartments are usually listed all the time. So it is reasonable that the owner wants to rent out these apartments continuously. So obviously they will be on the website.
By the way, I think the Parisian rental apartment market is a very good one. You have the option to rent out like on Airbnb, but instead of for a few days, you can rent for months, for 3-4 months, at a reasonable price. It is not possible in many cities, unfortunately. Sometimes you can only rent apartments for 6 months or for a year because the owner just doesn't want to bother.
It is a good thing that you have that option. But look out for the ones that you are not allowed to rent out for less than 6 months, because there were some of them as well. And this information is usually put in the fine print, so the general description of the apartment, so you cannot really find it even up until the last moment, and you send the information request and the agent can send you back the price is twice as much if you are renting it for only 2 months instead of 6 months, because it can happen that the pricing is different. So that is the key point, that you should start right after you find out that you can go. So I have already mentioned, I will definitely link below the website that we found this apartment on, but you can go and look for other websites as well. The good thing was about this website that this had the lowest commissions, or it said that it had the lowest commissions on the market. And by the way, we looked at other sites and they really had higher commissions, almost 20-30% more.
Sometimes it was paired with a little bit better service, but
yeah, well,
yeah.
But commissions are so high that it is almost worth it to go with the first service. But make sure that if you are looking for apartments on a website, that the website is legit.
Yes, it is very important.
Yeah. You can even ask your school that you are going to. Maybe they will know something about that particular website, or maybe they can recommend you something else. So just be conscious about that. But location is very important to decide on, because it will make the searching process much easier if you can narrow the apartments down at least with where exactly you want to look for them. Regarding the location, there are 2 key factors in my opinion, and that is how much you are willing to commute and safety.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a lot of information about safety on the internet. I don't know, you were looking for this information in particular, so...
Yeah, I looked it up on Reddit. Obviously I googled it, but Reddit was the most useful resource, because on Reddit you can read real feedback from users, like experiences and feelings.
I think it gives a really great insight into what it is like actually living there and what it is like going down the street. In that area, we always looked up that particular street and the neighborhood on Google Street View. I think it can give you a really good idea.
Yeah, of the neighborhood, of the percentage of the surface that is decorated by graffiti.
Yeah. about what condition the houses in that neighborhood are in. So it is just always useful to look at.
The basic ambience of the area.
And we even looked up what the walk to the closest metro station could be like and what the walk to the school would be like, because we wanted to walk to school. We wanted to walk a lot instead of public transport.
Yeah, and the nearby recreational areas like parks and museums where you can go.
You really have to decide on the location based on what you want to do in the city, because if you know you want to do a lot of sightseeing, then it might not be useful to live in the suburbs because it will make it that much harder.
Yeah, we really recommend you to write a list about the activities that you want to do and your priorities. How would you like to live in this city? And prioritize that list.
The second key factor that I mentioned was commute time. And there is always the assumption that you will have to live in the suburbs if you want to get a reasonable price on one apartment, especially in Paris, where the real estate prices are very high. But our mindset was that if we really chose a central location, then we might be able to not use the public transport, which is also very expensive. So we chose a central location, and this way we are able to avoid spending about 150 euros.
Yeah, it is crazy, you know.
Per month?
The monthly transportation is 70 euros per person. And if you're a student, you can only buy a yearly pass.
That is discounted.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you don't have a student discount. So it is just not worth it if you think about it, because 150 euros is basically the price difference between an apartment in the center and an apartment in the closer suburbs of Paris or in the outer areas of the inner circle.
Don't be afraid to check out these posh neighborhoods, these impossible to live in neighborhoods, because you really might find something really great there, because everybody is afraid to check them out. Yeah, and we found this apartment. This is amazing. We live 5 minutes from the Louvre, and it is very reasonable price.
It was really surprising that we could get this apartment for this price, because, as I've said, for 100 euros less, there were apartments in much further from the city center. We were looking at all the districts, and then we realized that we should choose which district we want to look at, because it was very overwhelming looking at all the different districts and not really knowing what the area is like.
Arrondissement. I just had to correct you, sorry. Arrondissement.
And with our logic, we finally decided that we want to look at the central locations and that we also want to be near the school that we will go to, so that we don't have to buy the public transport tickets. This is how we decided that we want to look at apartments in the first, in the second, in the fifth, in the fourth, maybe, I don't really remember. And we were also looking at apartments in 11th and the 10th, because that was really the closest to the school. We decided that we also will want to look at sites as well. So that is why I think we chose this neighborhood. It is better to walk around in this area. But the truth is that we were saying that you should look at the posh neighborhoods. The posh neighborhoods. There are some neighborhoods that were really truly expensive.
Around the Eiffel Tower.
The Eiffel Tower, and
in front of the Eiffel Tower on the other side of the Seine.
Yeah, on the opposite side. Those are really expensive, so not even near to what we pay for this apartment, ironically. These are the tips that we can give you, I think, on the location. You should look at for the safety first. You should decide where you want to live, and based on that you can look for the apartments and you can decide how much you are willing to pay. And if you are close to closing the deal on an apartment, then there is the question of how much you will pay. So what you are exactly paying for, because it might not be clear. I think it is different in every city how they are pricing apartments. There's sometimes that everything is included in the rent, and sometimes you will have to pay for different things. In Paris, we found that you usually pay rent. There is some additional charge for using the equipment of the building, and you usually pay extra for electricity based on your consumption. I think that they are focusing on that really in the central area of Paris. I don't know how it is in other districts. Here they are focusing on that because everything is electric, and if you provide enough a proof of income, then you are able to pay the rent monthly. If you are not able to prove that, they might ask you to pay it bi-monthly or pay the full thing in advance. So it is best to go through the fussy work and prove some income, and even the scholarship money, it is best
if you're getting
to give a proof about that.
So generally when you rent out the apartment, you will be asked to pay upfront the security deposit and 1 month's rent.
Plus the agency fee, which is usually based on how big the apartment is. So if you are renting a smaller apartment, you will have to pay less. That is also good about this apartment, is that it is not big, and I think that we did not really pay a horrible amount for the agency fee. So that was all our experience looking for an apartment in Paris as a student. We really hope this information will make your search for an apartment in a foreign city better, your experience better and easier. And if you have any questions about something that we left out, then make sure to ask us, because we are happy to answer them.
Yes, we are very happy indeed.
So thank you for watching and have a nice day.
Have a nice day. The next question you have to answer is, how much do you want to get mugged on the street?
No, that is not true. Paris is a safe city. We always read that Paris is a safe city.
Yes, it is. You know, the most important thing about real estate is location, location, location.
Oh,
Maybe.
I thought you were gonna say about the fake websites that it should be real.
Oh. Wow. That hit me hard.
A joke.
That I did not see that coming.